Guilty as charged. Guilty as charged.
Guilty as charged.
Guilty as charged. That's my guy.
Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Guilty as Charged podcast. Unfortunately, coming to you live after a Chargers loss 18-21 at the hands of Jackson Dart and the New York Football Giants. The Chargers were looking to go 4-0 for the first time since 2003, and instead they are 3-1. We're going to have a lot of takeaways about this, and joining me to do that is my guy, Tyler. Tyler, what's up, man? How you doing today?
Well, it's not a handstand-worthy game, I'll tell you that. Good news is, honestly, it sucks that they lost to the Giants. They are 3-1. So overall, on the first quarter of the season, solid. But losing like they did today to a Malik Neighbors list, Jackson Dart first start 0-3 Giants team, that's a bummer. And we will get to all of it. We're here. It's therapy. As I said on social media, Steven's a counselor. I took like 2 psychology classes one time en route to being a bio major. My mom is a therapist. You know, here we go. We got you guys.
Yeah, there's already 5 super chats in here, so we'll get to all of that. First things first, regarding Joe Alt, it looked horrible. He was carted off, but it is believed that he is dealing with a high ankle sprain. So thankfully, it's not the worst case scenario here. If it is 100% confirmed as a high ankle sprain, they should be okay, and he should miss about 4 weeks and then come back. So we'll see what happens there. But again, when he went down, I was like, okay, this is awful. So good news there. I think he was the only Chargers player who was injured, although Herbert certainly took a beating today. But definitely wanted to get that out of the way. Malik Neighbors, on the other hand, potentially most likely considering a torn ACL for Malik Neighbors. And you could kind of tell immediately that was the case. So, not that I'm ever rooting for players, on other teams or anything like that, but you just hate to see stuff like that. And when he was in the air, he was grabbing on his knee already. So you could kind of tell. So wish him nothing but the best on a potentially long recovery.
Yeah, that's terrible. Never want to see that. Never want to see it for a talented superstar player either. So yeah, luckily Joel, that was not the worst case scenario for him. It seems so far. Neighbors, yeah, that's a bummer. Like right when he leaped in the air, just the whole thing was funky. He landed funky, obviously. Terrible to see.
Yeah, sucks to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, before we get to some takeaways, I have to give a quick shout out to our friends over at Prize Picks, the best and easiest way to consume daily fantasy sports. This episode of the Guilty as Charged podcast and every episode of the Guilty as Charged podcast is brought to you by Prize Picks. You want to make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it is good to be right. We are going to start with a positive thing here on today's show going forward. And boy, I sure hope you had Omar and Hampton in your daily lineups today. That was a big payout potential there for you over on Prize Picks. So make sure and get in on the action there. Prize Picks is now available in more than 40 states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. So go download the app today and use the code GUILTY to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that is code GUILTY to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Okay, like I mentioned, we will have some negative takeaways today. Shocker, the Chargers lost and did not look great. But we are going to start on the positive today, hopefully to get, turning the vibe around a little bit. I think there are 2 particular players who deserve big shout-outs, and the first is Omarion Hampton. The second is Tuli Tui Palotu. Where would you like to start with those 2 today, Tyler?
I want to start with Tuli because Hampton had a bit of his own breakout game last week. So everyone's like, cool, we're good. Like we think Hampton is good. But you and I discussed Tuli. I think you had him as an unsung hero. We've been discussing him as an unsung or like a narrative guy because the sacks weren't there. And so everyone's like, well, where's Tuli? Where's he been? But we pointed out the run defense, the fact that he had 16 pressures, the only edge rusher in the NFL with more than 10 pressures and no sacks. So it's like, okay, against this defensive line or this offensive line of the Giants and a rookie quarterback, how's Tuli going to do? Pretty darn well. And it was pretty consistent. Initially, it was like, okay, like these are some coverage stuff, some motor sacks. It's not maybe as like high quality, but I mean, to finish this game with, at least on here, maybe a little different on Pro Football Focus, but 10 tackles, 7 solo, 4 sacks, 5 tackles for loss, 5 quarterback hits, a forced fumble, and I believe 4 run stops. There's the breakout game. I mean, that's at least statistically the best game Tuli has ever had. So when we talk about all the reasons the Chargers lost this game, Tuli can take the private jet home on the positive plane. Like, there's nothing that he did in this game to warrant any criticism. He was unbelievable this whole game.
Yeah, I think the Chargers would have been in a much worse situation for where they were at today with the defensive performance. So 4 sacks, and he almost had a 5th. Justin Eboigbe ended up getting that last sack, but it very well could have been Tuli's 5th sack of the day. You mentioned the run defense, getting that TFL on 3rd down at the goal line where, the Giants have been essentially moving the ball at will on the ground. And Tuli actually lined up as like a 4-eye there. There was another edge rusher outside of him. I want to say it was Kyle Kennard. So Tuli just knifes through, gets the TFL. He was lights out today. And I know that there were a lot of comments last week after we mentioned him. Well, who cares about 6 pressures? He had 0 sacks. This is why, pass rushers get credit for the pressures, because it's all a collaborative effort. It's a season-long evaluation process for a pass rusher. And so Tuli's now up to 23 pressures on the season, that'd be 24 pressures on the season, assuming PFF's current, numbers hold. But 4 sacks on the day. 2 of them obviously were like unblocked as an edge rusher on a zone read situation. But this would have been a very, different defensive performance without Tuli. And I think, on the broadcast, they said they're relying on him to be this kind of player without Khalil Mack. And he showed up in a big way today. And you pointed out, he also had a special teams tackle, which is, again, right. I wish that he were not playing special teams, but man, it just kind of goes to show what kind of player, what kind of teammate he is, where he can be that disruptive on defense and then also have a special teams tackle in a very key moment as well.
Yeah, so happy for him at least. It felt like the Chargers, there was so much physicality out there, and the Chargers, I think, were just lacking today for the most part. Or if they had physicality, they would then miss the tackle. But Tuli was like the only guy who consistently could actually respond to be getting hit in the face. I mean, he's out there against the Chargers. The Giants have a great blocking unit out there, but they're going after him, or they're trying to go around him, through him, past him, whatever. And for all the physicality and getting punched in the face the Chargers couldn't take, that was not Tuli. Tuli like stood his ground, was strong, as he always has been. Like, we point out several plays where Tuli is just one of the toughest guys out there. And in a game like this, he was. So again, we'll get into the reasons the Chargers lost this one, but Tuli, I mean, I don't think I've seen a stat line like this since like Joey Bosa versus like the Bills twice for some reason. Yeah, this game was just incredible by him.
Yeah, I think the balance of run defense, pass rush is continuing to be his strength, and is he going to be like this player who is, just going to like go viral for his pass rush wins? Probably not, but the effort that he plays with just continues to give him, chances at the football. And that's obviously a great thing for him. Yeah. On the other side with Omarion Hampton, 12 carries, 128 yards, 5 receptions, 37 yards for the rookie today after a monster performance last week. Follows that up with even a better performance this week. Again, putting the offense on his back on multiple occasions. There were like at least 3 or 4 runs or receptions where I thought he was going to be tackled for, no gain, short gain, and then he just makes somebody miss. The angry run where he's carrying 4 Giants defenders for like 15 yards after contact. It was an outstanding day from Omarion Hampton. I know that the offense took its lumps today, and I know that the pass rush that the Giants had gave them a lot of problems, but Omarion Hampton in the run game, I think, is going to be a positive thing for this team going forward, because he's seen things better after the first 2 games. He's running through contact at a really, really high level. He's making people miss. Hampton, I think it should have a lot of confidence for this team that he can earn more touches every single week going forward.
Yeah, this is the first game, not that it's been many, but I looked at and watched Hampton and I went, I don't think the other team could stop this guy. I really don't think if they handed him the football 8 times in a row, I actually don't think in that fourth quarter they would have been able to stop him. Would they? Yeah, probably. But for the most part, watching him, it was the most confident he's run. Angry, yes, like he's always tried to be physical, but there's just a lot of confidence there. It was fantastic. I genuinely thought in that final drive, Herbert may have thrown it twice, and Hampton was just going to roll them down the field, and they were going to at least get a field goal. That's the way it looked. But then, can't block this, can't block that, pass, throw it to Fisk. Oops, it doesn't work. And suddenly the Chargers have lost the game. So, but yeah, watching it, that Hampton giant touchdown run, he just like the DBs were not ready for that speed. And you could see him, and I haven't seen this in a while from a Chargers player. He had like turned into another gear. Like you watched him as he got to open the lane, like there was another gear shift there. And if Dobbins was fast, but Hampton just had that extra gear shift that the DBs of the Giants just was not ready for. So he was great. So I think there was some good pass pro reps in there too. I don't know. But yeah, 12 carries is kind of nuts. I know that one of them was a giant run, so that helps. But 128 yards and a touchdown to go with the 5 catches for 37 yards. By golly, they threw more than one screen this game. Incredible work there by Greg Roman.
The first one looked great, man. It was awesome.
It was awesome, man.
He threw that shit away.
Yeah. That's the last time we'll see a screen for another 6 months. But, whatever. They'll get him in the playoffs, right? They'll never see it coming. But, yeah, great game from Hampton. We were waiting to see that he was worth the first round selection for sure, and that he could be that guy. Yeah, last week was cool, but a lot of check down work, which was great, but it wasn't like it was a great truly receiving back performance. This was just kind of a bit of everything on top of all the great runs, the angry runs. You saw speed, physicality. Is everything you wanted from Hampton as the pick.
Yeah, I think we were kind of, after the first game, people were like trying to talk trash on Omarion, and he only averaged like 2.8 yards per carry or whatever. But in that game and in the second game, you could just kind of tell that he was really close to popping a couple big plays, and then he did that today. I think he had 3 very crucial big time plays for this team on offense. I can't believe we're at the point where we have to tell Greg Roman to be running the football more, as CQ Play 1 points out. 12 carries for Omarion Hampton is just simply not enough, especially against this kind of pass rush. And I know that the Chargers had like limited possessions. It was kind of a funky ball possession game. But Omarion, and I know he had 5 receptions, so 17 touches total. But to me, Omarion should be getting like 18 carries a game at minimum, as long as he is continuing to be healthy and show that he can handle that kind of workload, which he has, in my opinion. 18 carries at minimum is where we should be at. We didn't have any like bad moments from Hassan Haskins or Kamani Vidal or anything like that. I feel like they were barely on the field though. So if they're going to play Hampton this much, he should absolutely be getting 18 carries a game at minimum for the foreseeable future, especially without Joe Alt for 3 or 4 weeks. Like, you can't just keep exposing Justin Herbert to this kind of pass rush. And the Commanders next week are not there. They don't have a Brian Burns or an Abdul Carter, but they have guys who are really excelling at their roles right now. And I think they were like 6th in the league in pressure percentage heading into this week. So it does not get any easier from a pass protection standpoint. They have to lean in to the Omarion Hampton run game, because back-to-back weeks where it looks really, really good, and it was the best part of the offense in the last 2 weeks. Yeah,
I don't. Obviously, letting Herbert have the football and be the guy, I understand that. But after a while, when you have enough data watching the game in game, first quarter, second quarter, I thought things were going to change a little bit, but it never quite to the extent that I thought it would. You got to be able to change gears and do what you got to do, especially if you invested this much in Hampton. It's not like they were down to Haskins and it's like, okay, kind of probably has to be Herbert or nothing else.
Yeah,
let it be Hampton. And it's as confounding as it was against the Buccaneers. This game reminding me of that game against the Bucs. Curious how many rushes they had. Granted, no Hampton, but Gus Edwards and Kamani Vidal had 11 carries in that game, and Herbert just got killed over and over and over, and he was hurt in that game. Got hit over and over and over again. It's like, please, I understand that passing is more efficient and Herbert's the best player on the field, but for the love of God, this guy's getting killed out there, and you're down tackles in this. Both your tackles, Becton. Pipkins is limited. He was full, but he's been limited with a knee injury. Bozeman's been limited.
Yeah.
And sure, they also have to run block too, but like Herbert was getting killed out there. 12 carries is not enough. I understand that there were at least 3 screens, I think, in this game.
Yeah, 2 for Hampton and 1 for Conklin. Yeah.
Yeah. So I understand that's kind of an extension of the run game, but it's just not enough. And you can't watch Herbert get killed over and over and over again. And I feel like when they did start to lean into the run game a little bit, things kind of backed off. It felt like there was a 10-minute, 15-minute, sequence in there where Herbert was just not getting killed. Was it the run game? Was it just pass protection? I don't know. Got to find a way to get them to back off in the coming weeks. Thankfully, this is the worst of it. So in terms of what they're going to have to face, it doesn't really get worse, but it doesn't get super, super easy either.
Yeah, it does not. I misspoke earlier when I said it was just the 2 players. I think there's a third one, and I think that player is Quentin Johnston, who had 98 yards receiving today for the Chargers on 13 targets, 8 receptions, and the touchdown, which was a nasty, nasty double move. So Quentin Johnston is up to 337 yards on the season. He is averaging 84 receiving yards per game through 4 games. If that pace held up, he would be pushing 1,500 yards receiving, which I don't think it was on anybody's bingo card. We'll see how that evens out, but he is playing at such a high level. And, they talked to Keenan Allen on the Pat McAfee show, and then the broadcast mentioned this, that they asked him, like, what looks different about Quentin Johnston? And he was like, oh, confidence. Like, he's just a much more confident player. And that is absolutely true. But at the same time, like, his route running and his release game is just so much more effective right now. The slant leading up to the touchdown where he releases off the line against Deonte Banks. I know Deonte Banks isn't like a great corner or anything like that, but it was a super clean release, man. Catches the slant in traffic. He's been incredible through 4 games, and they didn't really use him a ton on like crossing routes and stuff like that. It was a lot more like traditional X stuff today. And he absolutely showed out and deserves a lot of credit for his play today, deserves a lot of credit for his play throughout the first 4 games. And if he can continue to play at this level for the rest of the season, man, like we might have to have a different conversation about what we thought Quentin Johnston's ceiling was, where heading into the season, we were kind of talking about like, oh, like maybe he can just be like a really effective wide receiver 3. And through 4 games, I don't know where he's going to end up, but he was in the top 10 in several receiving categories heading into today. And obviously had a fantastic output for the Chargers this afternoon.
Yeah, I never would have guessed that Quentin Johnston would not just be like involved as heavily as he is, but also involved when you added Keenan Allen and you have Trey Harris and Keandre Leonard-Smith. Like you in the summer, when Mike Williams goes down, like what is kind of the thought process of what he could be this year? And I think even at best, we'd think, 800, 900 yards, but not a 1,000-yard receiver because you're feeding it to McConkey and Conklin if he still existed, and Keenan Allen, and let's say Hampton and Najee Harris. So when are you funneling to Quentin Johnston? We were clearly wrong. He's 3rd in the NFL right now in receiving yards behind Jackson Smith and Jigba and Puka Nacua. Like that's never, I never, ever, ever would have guessed that. And the impressive thing is, this isn't a $186 against the Raiders and then 0 yards, 20 yards, 40 yards. This is 70 yards or more in 4 straight games to open the year with 4 touchdowns. This is not a guy. It's not a one-hit wonder game. It's not, there's like last week, I think Trey Tucker had a huge game for the Raiders against the Commanders. Like Trey Tucker's probably not having, 1,500 yards this year. I won't put it past him. That was a good game. This with Quentin Johnston, it feels sustainable. Now, weeks 1 through 2, it felt like, okay, they ran a crosser and Quentin Johnston caught a touchdown. They ran a deep over, he gets a touchdown. A lot of yak stuff, great. The last 2 weeks has been more of the, okay, that's actually what a wide receiver 1 could do for this team. It's the slant, as you mentioned. It's the contested catch last week. It's the physicality after the catch last week as well against the Broncos. It's the stutter and go today on the outside. That stuff is like, okay, Quentin Johnston's not just getting yards because he's involved and he's kind of open, but it's yak stuff and he's a gadget guy. He's getting yards because he's winning one-on-ones and he's winning at contested catch points. And it's incredible, too, that he's been hurt both games now, thanks to Hufanga in the first game, and then at some point in this game with a shoulder injury. Obviously not a significant one, but he was dealing with something. He kept, touching his shoulder. And both those moments, he gets hurt and he comes back in, he makes a big play. So not only is he playing great, looking great, but he's tough as heck too. I have nothing but positive things to say about Quentin Johnston, and I'm glad he's having this kind of year, because even though you and I have been more patient with him, I think for a lot of Chargers fans, it's a big learning moment. I think Quentin Johnston is going to be teaching a lot of Chargers fans, including us, and some to different degrees, about what development looks like and what coaching looks like, and patience. So now, everyone, I see you. Please don't now just suddenly direct that towards Lad McConkey, because that's a very knee-jerk reaction that's going on right now. We'll talk about him. Quentin Johnston's been great.
Yeah, he deserves a lot of credit for it. Sanjay Lal deserves a lot of credit for continuing to work with him, but this is a player who just has continued to work his butt off, and Jim Harbaugh, Justin Herbert continue to just prop him up at every single turn, and he has earned the right to have that trust. So 3 players there. Anybody else you want to shout out from a positive side of things before we jump into the nitty-gritty of this episode?
Some of this will take some film watch, because I'm not 100% sure. Like, I don't recall Dante Jackson getting roasted out there by any means. Like, I don't remember the corners themselves getting toasted a ton. But no, that's about where I want to end today's positives.
Montserrat wants us to shout out Derwin. I don't know if I can really say that today.
Not like the last couple of weeks.
Not the last couple of weeks. He had a couple very important moments. So obviously Tuli gets the tackle for loss on 3rd down. On 2nd down, Derwin James was the one who stood up Cam Scadaboo for, at the goal line to make that 3rd down a possibility. If Derwin were not there at that moment and was not able to drive through Cam Scadaboo, then Troy Dye had him on his legs, but Scadaboo likely scores there. So some positive Derwin moments, but I don't think we can really give him like a shout out, because I don't think he has the same kind of impact as the previous few. And correct, Dayon, same kind of thing. A few positive moments from Dayon, a few positive moments from Troy Dye, but very inconsistent overall from the defense outside of Tuli.
Yep.
All right. Let's get into this. So the Chargers losing 18-21 to the Giants, to me, a lot of people were painting this as a trap game, and I understand, and we disagreed with that. I disagreed with that, because I felt like this Chargers team was well enough coached that they would be ready for this kind of moment, that they would have done a lot of film work on Jackson Dart, the player, heading into today, considering they drafted one of his teammates, that they would have been able to create a game plan to have a proper pass protection performance against the Giants' 3 edge rushers. Now, Dexter Lawrence didn't have like a huge pass rushing day, so that's cool, I guess. But the reason why I felt like this wasn't a trap game is because I felt like the Chargers were a significantly better team from a talent perspective, a significantly more well-coached team than the Giants, who have continually been one of the worst coached teams in the league since Brian Daboll got hired. And that was the opposite. Now, it is extremely difficult to win a game on the road in the NFL when you have 2 turnovers, both of which were returned to inside the 5-yard line. You have 14 penalties for 107 yards. You give up over 160 yards rushing to Cam Scadaboo and Jackson Dart. It takes you until midway through the 3rd quarter to finally spy Jackson Dart and get him, for a negative play. So I don't know where to direct this performance in terms of the loss, but it was a very poorly coached team today on multiple fronts. And I just didn't think the Chargers would be able to have this kind of performance today. Turnovers are going to happen. The Dexter Lawrence thing, like, that's just a heck of a play from Dexter Lawrence. But it was probably the sloppiest game I have seen a good Chargers team play in a long time. Obviously, like the end of the Brandon Staley area, there were multiple, sloppier performances. The Anthony Lynn final season, that Patriots game 45-0, stuff like that. But Jim Harbaugh, Jesse Minter, Greg Roman, I think should be above this kind of performance where the game plan across the board was poor. The penalties were atrocious. 14 penalties in an NFL game is insane. And the team just did not look like they were ready for this environment. And it wasn't even like a tough environment. Again, the Giants are a bad team. So if you want to dunk on me for saying that this was not a trap game, that's fine. Whatever. I'll take that L. But to me, the Chargers coaching staff should have been above this kind of performance. And across the board, I felt like they were poorly prepared, and then they executed at an even lower level. So we can talk about individual players and stuff like that, but the coaching staff, to me, did not have this team ready to play in any facet of the game, and that is why they lost.
Okay, so as far as a trap game goes, to clarify, I think a trap game is when the opponent after the bad team is a great team and you're overlooking the bad team because the great team is on the other side and you're more concerned about that team. Sure. That to me is a trap game. The Commanders just lost to the Falcons today. I do not consider the Giants I do not consider this game a trap game. It's 100% a game they should have won, though. Yes. Call it whatever you want. Trap game, whatever. This is a game the Chargers should have won. 14 penalties. And it felt like it was at the worst time every time. Never really a good time for a penalty, but it felt like with this one, boy, do you need a third down conversion? There's a penalty. Hey, who is it? Theo Johnson had a touchdown, I believe, across the middle there on like a shovel pass. Let's commit unnecessary roughness to give them a shot at a 2-point conversion or whatever it was. Just like at the worst times possible, let's do the dumbest things possible. And it was offense, it was defense. It felt more like defense, but regardless, it was across the board. And I like you said, I can't sit here and just say, oh, well, it's, this group's got to get their stuff together. It was just the DBs, lots of defensive pass interference and holding. It was just everybody. Everybody was committing errors. And then on top of that, you add the execution errors. I mean, J.K. Scott with a 21-yard punt or whatever it was to try to do anything for the Chargers to close out this game. Didn't. Like, that was dreadful. The blocking, the stunt pickup, the lack of stunt pickup, I should say. Yeah. So many errors in this one. It's kind of a miracle they were even sort of in this game, but this is a game they should have won. Like, yes, you lose Joe Alt. Yes, the Giants have a good defensive line. They also lost Malik Neighbors, and again, we're starting their rookie quarterback.
Yeah.
And you just can't lose games like this. Dart finally had enough passing yards, but the leading rusher for the Giants had 79 rushing yards. Dart had 111 passing yards. Chargers have 107 yards just in penalties. I mean, the Chargers almost outgained in terms of penalties their leading passer and rusher. That's awful. And again, 14 of them. I don't know how many of them led to first downs. Let's say it was 9 or 10 of them. That is inexcusable.
Yeah, you mentioned the J.K. Scott punt. Tariq still has never returned NFL punts in a game, and I don't know, like, if I want to blame him, but to me, this is coaching. You get the stop you need with about 30 seconds left. The Giants are punting. The only thing Tariq still should be taught and coached in that moment is that he should be fair catching the football and preserving as much time as possible. Mm-hmm. Anytime you're punting to the team in that instance, you're going to try to get the punt returner to run around and waste time. And Tariq runs around and wastes time. So the Chargers have essentially 3 plays to get to, about the 45-yard line to have like a desperation field goal for Cam Dicker. Mm-hmm. And again, like he's never done it in the NFL before. Lad McConkey has done it in the NFL before. KLS has done it at least in a preseason. I don't understand the decision to let Tariq still go out there in general, and then to not coach him up to say, hey, man, we need time. Just fair catch the football here if they kick it to you. That decision, I do not understand. Late into the fourth quarter, they're chipping against Kayvon Thibodeau to Trey Pipkin's side, and Austin Deculus, who we can definitely talk about the pass protection, and we will. Austin Deculus is getting one-on-one treatment against Abdul Carter. He's not Joe Alt, guys. You can't do that. Right. It is just like continually just like banging your head against the wall. Hey, let's get this guy we traded for a month ago who was probably going to get cut from the Houston Texans, which if you think the Chargers offensive line was bad today, go look at some Texans clips. let's put him against the 3rd overall pick, who is one of the best pass rushers in the last few years to come out of Penn State. It just, again, the coaching decisions just did not make any sense to me. Everybody knew heading into today that the Giants were just going to play simple offensive football. They're going to run the football with Cam Scadaboo. They're going to design run, Jackson Dart. Brian Abel came out and said that during the week. Hey, we're going to use Jackson Dart's legs. And I just don't feel like they really had a plan for it. So there are certain moments of this game where the players did not execute, but the coaching staff, to me, just did not have them ready to play in any facet of the game. Special teams, we have praised Ryan Ficken for being, the best special teams coordinator, in Chargers history. And I think that is still accurate. But special teams is a real weakness for this team right now, outside of Cameron Dicker, who is awesome. The punt game, punt return, kickoff defense, like it's bad. And so it's a real weakness right now that they have to get fixed. I just in general feel like the coaching staff did not perform the way that they should have. And maybe that is, a facet of the traveling. I don't really know, but the coaching staff, I just did not love the decisions that were made today.
No, I definitely did not. I don't understand the special teams stuff. Watching them, especially after seeing it live now against the Broncos, not only are they slow, it almost looks like, I understand you're supposed to set up your blockers, but it looks like they're waiting for the blockers to be set up before anybody even goes. I feel like there's a certain flow and run to the way kick returns go, right? Obviously it's a little bit different now, but like ball gets kicked, guy catches the football, and then he just goes. Maybe there's a little bit of patience, angle this way, angle that way, but for the most part, it's not like jogging, waiting, okay, and then we're going. For whatever reason this year, not that the Chargers have, 4-2 speed guys out there, although they do in Keandre Lambert-Smith, probably should use him. But like, it looks like they're just like waiting for the play to happen or waiting for the blocks to be like, oh, there it is. Okay, now I'll go. At least let somebody run head first into their own guy and pick up 29 yards instead of this like, okay, here we go, 25 yards, 23 yards, 26 yards, 27 yards. Yeah. So I don't know what's happening with the return game. Generally speaking, that unit should be fine, but they kept a lot of people, on cut day. They kept like a Keldon Williamson, for example. They spent a good amount on Delshon Phillips. They kept Marlowe Wax. And not that those guys are necessarily the issue, but this is Ryan Ficken's group. The back end of the roster is his group. They got to be a lot better. And that Tar Heel still decision, he should know better. You've watched enough football, you played enough football, whether you've returned or not, in that situation what you should be doing. But he also just shouldn't be out there. Like, okay, you get a great defensive series, great hit on third down, and then I'll go return punts for us. Like, I don't understand that thinking either. I don't know if that's Ficken's decision. I know they've like flirted with the idea of maybe some DBs before as like the third option for them. Sure. But you have Keandre Lambert-Smith and you even have Vlad McConkey, but I don't want it to be McConkey. I just don't understand why it couldn't be Keandre Lambert-Smith or Trey Harris or literally anybody else that you're not using on offense at this point. So yeah, coaching decisions, not great. I kind of want to shift now to the defense.
Sure.
Because the whole game plan was there, guys. It was the Giants are going to run the football. They run the football 40.
So obvious to anybody who like listened to Brian Dable talk this week.
Yeah, especially after you lose Malik Neighbors. I understand if you go spam Malik Neighbors for the whole game, fine. Malik Neighbors goes down. What else are they doing? It's very obvious what they're going to do. And again, 42 carries, 161 yards. I think it was 3.8 yards per carry, which isn't super efficient, but a lot of that at the end was just kind of clock chewing, short yardage, that sort of stuff. And I couldn't believe not just how unprepared they looked, but they just got bullied. And this interior defensive line has usually been pretty solid, but whether it's the DBs or the linebackers, Derwin, you name it, everyone's just like slow to get there. They didn't seem to think that Jackson Dart was going to run it in this game. I'm pretty sure that's all I knew Jackson Dart was going to do in this game. And he over and over and over again, a couple times I think walked back due to penalty too, was running all over them. And it's so strange. Like Dan Henley's like sick with 103-degree fever the last two games, and he's on it. Like you have a couple of plays, the Chiefs game, the Raiders game, you name it. They are on it with QB Spy. This is And that's with the threat of, let's say, Geno Smith throwing it down the field, Mahomes throwing it to whoever was available at the time. Jackson Dart with no Malik Neighbors is going to be running this football. And they were like, oh, he is? It was such a strange thing to watch. It really, for the first time, was like, are we just allowing the Giants to do everything on this? And look, I'm sure there was a great game plan and that has layers of whatnot that's far exceeding anything I can comprehend. But man, I was watching it going, this looks like you're playing the Chiefs and you're Brandon Staley again. It's like, you just get everything. Here's another 5 yards. It wasn't even like, Cam Scottaboo was just like so great in this game. It was like, here's 4 yards of runway, and then we're going to try to tackle him and not make it. It was rough. The defense really struggled today. Middle of the field, getting after Dart, bringing on Scottaboo. Other than Tuli and some splash plays here and there from others, it was brutal.
Yeah, so it was bad, and the middle of the field passes were just there easily. The second to last drive that the Giants had before the goal line stand, the Chargers get that sack from, I think that would have been Justin Eboigbe's sack, where it might have been some other time. Anyways, it's 2nd and 18. And they throw a simple like curl route to Darius Slayton, and then boom, pops it for 17 yards, and it's a first down. And the final drive, they get into 3rd and 5. You get exactly the situation you want. You use your last timeout, and they leave Theo Johnson wide open in the middle of the field. And Dan Henley is too late to react. And he looks around, and I think he's trying to figure out, like, hey, I'm supposed to have help over here. Like, what's going on? And first down, and then the Giants are able to just wind the clock down to 30 seconds. So I don't know, man. Like, if the Chargers had been able to execute on offense to get into a situation where they were forcing the Giants into obvious passing downs, I think the defense would have had a very different performance today, because I just don't think Jackson Dart was really seeing things beyond the first read, and the broadcast was just like glazing like crazy today. It was the most simple game plan ever. It looked like first read, no, okay, scramble. That's what Jackson Dart's performance was today, and like credit to him for executing that. But they just, I don't know, man. Like, I thought that the defensive tackles would show up in like a big way this game. It's not like the Giants are the best, they're not like the Ravens from a run blocking perspective. They're not the Bills from a run blocking perspective. I don't even think they're like the Chargers from a run blocking perspective. And I thought that the defensive line would show up in a big way. And there were a couple good moments from Jamari and Tier Tart, but they were getting bulldozed, man. And it was not a crazy Cam Scatterby yards after contact day. It just like, they were blocking for 4 and he would get 6, and they were blocking for 3 and he would get 5. Like, it was really disheartening to see the defense show up in this way.
Yeah. And the missed tackles were rough this game. I don't know what it'll end up being. They were surprisingly kind to them against the Raiders. I remember in week 2, it felt like they were missing everything. The Broncos game, I don't recall what the numbers were. I don't look at them as much when they win, all's good and whatever. But this game, man, like the missed tackles, bouncing off of players, ugly. So we've got not prepared, execution, penalties, missed tackles, and it's generally across the board. That's why I wanted to start with the 3 players that were good, because you can put them in their own special section of greatness, and everybody else just like did not show up today. I'm glad people are bringing up the fact that there is a travel aspect to this. They've done a ton of traveling, 3 difficult, 2 of them primetime division games, not easy. You go to Brazil, you got to go to Vegas, you play at home, and you go to East Coast, 10 a.m. game. Like, that is part of it, and I expect them to respond. But yeah, it was an ugly one.
Yeah, if the Chargers had just had a slow start, the first couple drives were not good. Like, that's a justifiable thing for me in terms of the travel, the schedule, stuff like that. The rest of it, though, is just not justifiable to me. Like, the constant issues from a penalty standpoint, and the execution were just, that's a team who was not ready for today. That's not a team who was tired from traveling. I think there's a distinct difference there.
Yeah.
The other people unit on the poo-poo list today is the pass protection. So Justin Herbert gets hit 12 times today. I think only 2 sacks, if I'm not mistaken, at least 1. So, this could have been much worse. Luckily Justin Herbert was able to avoid quite a few sacks, but 12 hits, 21 pressures, at least right now on PFF. I think that number will go up. So, Next Gen Stats had the Chargers at 54% pressure percentage allowed today. PFF currently has it at 45%. I think it will go up when I check the numbers tomorrow on PFF. But initial tracking has Austin Deculus 6 pressures, which again, hard to fault him when he's getting one-on-one against Abdul Carter all day. I don't understand that decision. Jamari Sawyer to me is like the big story of this unit overall. 5 pressures allowed from him, 1 sack, 2 hits right now. Bradley Bozeman 4, Trey Pipkins 3, Zion Johnson 1, and then you have Haskins, Hampton, Fisk, and Matlock each with 1. So just an absolute brutal day. And every time that Brian Birds would loop around and end up hitting Justin Herbert, I'm sitting there thinking like, man, that they're not doing anything crazy. And I actually feel like the Chargers would protect pretty well when they actually blitzed, but they're just doing like simple day one install loops against the right side. And Bradley Bozeman and Jamari Sawyer were just not able to cut it. And there were a lot of people in my mentions and earlier in the chat that are like, Zion Johnson lost this game and Zion played poorly. 1 pressure right now. And I felt like there was definitely one that Zion let through against Abdul Carter that hit, that he got a hit on Justin Herbert. And that sucks. But to me, the right side of the offensive line for the Chargers was a major detriment to how they were pass protecting today. And it was that case last week. So the good news, I guess, for that is that Mekhi Becton should return next week. And he's been lights out from a pass protection standpoint. I'm really concerned about again the overall decision making regarding the offensive line, where there's no competition for center outside of like the whole rotation thing. There's no competition for backup guard snaps. There's no competition for swing tackle snaps. And now you're at the point where if Joe Alt is going to miss 4 weeks, which we don't have a confirmation here, you're starting Austin Deculus and Trey Pipkins going forward. And I don't know, maybe they would consider putting Jamari at left tackle in that case. I kind of don't think he has deserved that right to be playing left tackle right now. But you're going to have to dedicate a lot of resources to chipping edge rushers because you have your 3rd left tackle and your 2nd right tackle. And if you're doing that, you need your interior to be stout. You need your interior to be on their P's and Q's. And today, Jamari Sawyer and to a lesser extent, Bradley Bozeman were just not on it. And Jamari Sawyer was not on it last week. And I know that he played well in a certain, to a certain degree at left tackle after Slater got hurt in his rookie season. But the last few games that Jamari has started have been very bad.
Yeah.
This week, last week against the Chiefs, I know he didn't start, but he played the bulk of the game. And then the Texans game, the 3 of those performances are extremely burned into my brain that he was very bad. And he's a fine backup overall. They're not going to see this kind of talent every single week, but he was probably the worst performer on the offensive line today. And they had a 3rd string left tackle who they acquired a month ago.
Yeah. On the one hand, I understand the initial reaction to any criticism, which is, well, they don't have Slater and they don't have Alt. I understand that for sure. And this was never going to be an easy game. But as you said, the right side in particular has been pretty bad the last couple of weeks. Again, they will not face this kind of group back to back, really arguably for the rest of the season. But Nate Tice tweeted with like 40 minutes to go in the game that Justin Herbert had been pressured on 46 of his dropbacks over the past 2 weeks. I'm guessing that was over 50, let's say 54 by the time the game ended and the 4th quarter ended. Pressured on 54 of your dropbacks 2 weeks in a row. Now, that's surprisingly not a high percentage. I mean, it is a high percentage, but it's not 85% because they pass it and drop back so many times the last 2 weeks.
Sure.
But that is inexcusable. And if it holds, 2 of those are Zion of the 54 dropbacks that he was pressured on. Like I'm making up 54. I'm assuming it's over 50 though. After that,
Yeah, a minimum over 50.
Yeah, at minimum over 50. So that right side, I think the last 2 weeks, should things hold, has been responsible for what, 35 at least. If you want to include Bradley, then 40 something of them.
Yeah.
It's been a disaster. And now we're getting to the point where your concerns and our concerns, a lot of fan concerns over the lack of true competition along the interior is rough for them. I mean, after the first week, Duke Manyweather goes, Chargers need a better center. Like they beat the Chiefs on primetime. Duke Manyweather's like, their center sucks, which like, okay, fine. They did win the game, but it's getting worse. Sawyer's not look good. Obviously, Becton being back will help, but this is now looking like a team that didn't invest enough in the interior and enough in just competing along the interior. So we'll see. Again, it doesn't get worse, thankfully, but every game now has taken away something from the Chargers, it feels like, whether it's Becton with the concussion or Sean Slater in the offseason, Najee Harris. Not that he's a pass protecting guy, but like he could, or he could be an outlet for them, or just the run game, it helps them, whatever. They've been chipping away at this group, but now it's like, all right, here goes your depth. What do you got? Oh, it's the same guys from last year that got Herbert killed. All right, well, I guess you're losing to the Giants today.
Yeah, and I guess they deserve credit. Zion looks really good. The numbers through 4 games. If that one pressure from today holds through, that's 4 pressures in 4 games. That looks great. His film is a lot improved from last season. So you get into the season theoretically feeling, if we had known that Zion would be performing like this, and if the tackles were both healthy, and Becton looks like he doesn't pass protection, that's a great unit, man. It is, with Bradley Bozeman being your weak point, obviously, but now you're dealing with injuries and people are asking about like, oh, let's go trade for player X, Y, and Z. That's not solving anything, guys. Like they're not going to go out and trade for an all-pro tackle to come in and fix things. They're not going to go out and trade for an all-pro right guard to fix things. This is the bed that they have made, and they have to lay in it. And they have to figure out a way to overcompensate for the lack of offensive line depth. And people were getting so frustrated at us in the offseason for talking about it. And this is where we're at now, where you're down Slater for the entire season. Joe Alt is out for at least a couple of weeks. Hopefully it's nothing, if this is not an IR stint, that would be amazing. But it's a high ankle sprain on his interior leg. Mekhi Becton has dealt with some kind of illness and now a concussion. And they're starting Austin Deculus at left tackle for at least 2 or 3 games. And, if they had not been able to trade for him, they would be starting Foster Sorrell at left tackle or Jamari Sawyer at left tackle. So, this regime has done a lot of good things. They're getting a lot of value in their draft classes. They are getting value from their free agency, signings. They have turned Quentin Johnston around. They have potentially turned Zion Johnson around, but they did not do enough from the offensive line standpoint. We talked about it all off season long, and people hated that we talked about it all off season long. And now people are like, well, the offensive line sucks. Like, what are you going to do? This is why we talked about it for all the entire off season. And I feel like I headed into today wanting to rant about that. And I feel like that was pretty mild. So I'm proud of myself for not ranting about that.
That's because we've exhausted ourselves talking about it for the entire offseason. So we're done talking about it at this point because, it is what it is. The unfortunate thing, and I think we all know this to be true, unless Alt's done for the year, which he's not, the Chargers are not going to go trade for or sign anyone significant. They're going to maybe add someone to the practice squad. Yeah. And that's about it. If the Chargers really thought that Deculus and Pipkins and these guys as reserve and or starting groups, units, and Jamari Sawyer, if they really thought they were a problem, they would have done something about it by now, before the season. Try to be preemptive about it. Suddenly now in week 5, they're not going to suddenly go, oh, you know what? We got to trade for somebody, and who's available for the, first and foremost, who's available.
Yeah.
Like the best they could do, or at least the best that they wanted to do and pulled off, was getting an offensive lineman from the Texans, and their line sucks. Usually it's not the group that I'd want to go for, but they did. And this is kind of the result. I don't blame Austin Deculus for having a bad day against this Giants front. The Chargers just should have done more. They didn't. This is where they're at, and they are not going to go out and sign. Clip it out if you want, if I'm wrong. They're not going to go sign anybody new or suddenly draft anybody that's suddenly going to start unless somebody else got hurt. We're not aware of it. Maybe someone is signed and they start over a Foster Sarrell, let's say, but that's it. This group is the group you saw today, other than Becton coming back, is going to be the same group that's out there next week against the Commanders.
Yeah, maybe they can throw a 7th round pick for Trevor Keegan, who they try to claim, but it's not great. Mekhi Becton should be back next week. If Joe Alt can return in 4 weeks, eventually the offensive protection problems will continue to get better because better players will be out there. But this is why a game like today is exactly why you overcompensate for the depth. This is why the Eagles are in the situation where they are from an offensive line standpoint, where Lane Johnson is, missing games with a stinger, and the Eagles are not missing a beat because every single year they are going out and signing backup tackles. They are drafting people. They are trading for people. That's what you have to do if you really, really want quality offensive line depth. Just sitting there and banking on, Jamari lost weight, so he's going to be better. And Zion Johnson gets some center snaps, so he's going to be better at recognizing stunts, which he has. Credit to him. He has been a lot better at picking up stunts, although he did have one bad one today. And then Mekhi Becton is just going to be awesome, which, again, he has, so credit to him. But they did not take enough bites at the apple, and this is what happens, when you do not have enough depth along the offensive line.
I mean, the Lions for years now have had the best offensive line in the league, and they still drafted, Christian Mahogany and Tate Ratledge. And I think going into this game, they put up 34 points against the Browns. Those two guys were like two of the highest graded players interior offensive linemen in the league. Not that the Chargers can draft and develop as well as the Lions. And of course, their scheme and everything helps, but would be nice.
Yeah, I mean, they had Frank Ragnow retired after the draft. They didn't know that was going to happen, and they're not missing a beat because they invest the resources. So, the Chargers are really going to have to address this in the offseason. And I mean, like, really, really address this. And obviously, Bradley Bozeman is under contract. We'll see what happens about Zion Johnson. I can guarantee everybody right now, if he's allowing one pressure per game, he will be back next season because Jim Harbaugh loves him and this team loves him. So, but outside of that, they've got to invest some premium resources in upgrading the depth behind these guys. And we don't even know if Rashawn is going to be back at some point. Trey Pipkins is a free agent. So the depth is a problem. And that's why it looked the way that it did today.
Yep. Zion Johnson's probably back. Bradley Bozeman is under contract. Mekhi Becton is under contract. Run it back, baby. That is next year. And if you think we're crazy, go look at last year's discussion about the offensive line and then running it back.
Yes.
The Zion, we got to let it go. Let the fucking Zion stuff go for these 4 weeks, okay? I don't care if you think he's been dog shit the entire rest of his career so far. He's been good the last 4 weeks. I'm not saying he's perfect. He's allowed 2 pressures the last 2 weeks. Yes, you can replay the one over and over again from last week because it was the biggest play of the game. And this one, he let a stunt go through and it sucked. He's not been a bum. Can everybody shut the fuck up about this? One fucking thing happens and he's like, oh, he fucking sucks. Send him to Guantanamo. Like, give me a break. Austin Deculus allows 45 pressures a snap. And we're like, yeah, whatever. But Zion allows 1 against the Giants and 1 against the Broncos. And it's like, kill his entire family. Go John Wick on a car and dog. Like, can we just stop? Jeez. He's the best lineman they have right now. By the way, he's the best lineman they have. Anyway.
Yeah, he was easily the best lineman they had today after Joel got hurt. It's I don't understand. Like, he's playing well. If you felt like he was a liability heading into the season, I get it. If you want him off the team, I get it. If you wanted depth, I get it. He's played really good through 4 weeks, man. We have to be real and acknowledge that he's playing well. There's been a lot of Zion Johnson hate in this chat today. Jamari Sawyer has allowed at least 9 pressures in the last 2 weeks, guys, and that's like a game and a half. So, you got to call it like it is.
Different story.
Yeah.
100% not worth the pick. But like, give me a break, guys. there are 3.5 other players on this offensive line who are worse.
Yeah, there's quite a long list of players who deserve blame for today ahead of Zion Johnson. Like, and Zion was
we can start Foster Sarrell, and then we'll see who's a bum. No offense, Foster.
Yeah, Zion had like 3 or 4 key blocks that sprung Amari and Hampton's big runs too. So again, I get heading into the season being frustrated about the Zion stuff. We were frustrated about the Zion stuff too, but give it a rest. Like the entire game, I'm getting mentions in my comments. Zion sucks. Cut him. Zion is horrible. We're not watching the same game if you feel like he's the one that deserves to be called out.
Yeah. And yes, I will tell you to stop saying that he's been bad. If we're talking about this season, which is, again, I'm saying just this season, he has not. You cannot find that on film. You cannot find that statistically. You cannot find that with really anybody who seems to be watching film and talking about Zion and his improvement.
No.
So, sorry. Be quiet. You can stay in the chat and say all you want. Fine. If you disagree, that's fine. It just if on film you can't say it and on statistics you can't say it, we're kind of at an impasse here, and that's just how I feel.
Yeah, we're not understanding. We're not victory lapping. We all agree that the previous 3 years were very bad.
Correct.
We are not trying to say that. He has been very good through 4 weeks this season. So that's the one that's the issue right now.
Yes.
All right. Our audio audience is going to take a quick break. We'll come back with some final takeaways, super chats. We have 29 of them. So we'll be right back here in a second. Okay. Do you want to have a Ladd McConkey conversation? Or do you want to wait and watch some tape first?
We'll just mention it, right? Because I think we should watch the tape. I have no idea. Ladd McConkey, this was a disappearing act game for him, which started with drops. And that's the thing. I don't know what the coverage may or may not have been, but the 2 to 3-ish drops, I don't blame him for the Herbert interception, but he did trip over his own guy, and that led to an interception. Maybe it was still picked, but he wasn't there. So it was I don't know if it was a bad Ladd McConkey game, but it was an unproductive Ladd McConkey game for sure. And in this game, we mentioned ahead of the show, or on the preview show, Drew Phillips allowed the most receiving yards in the NFL by any slot defender in the NFL. And so you think that if not McConkey, then at least Keenan Allen, right? Like, okay, maybe it's not McConkey's day, but it is Keenan Allen the slot day. Neither of them, but in particular, Ladd McConkey showed up today. At least they were unproductive. Again, don't know if it was bad. Maybe he's open 6 times, but Zion Johnson allows his 10th pressure apparently. And apparently, he can't get the football to Ladd McConkey. But I think it was at least a disappearing act based on the initial watch.
Yeah, I think the first 3 games, you see a guy who's getting a lot of attention from a coverage standpoint. He's still getting open, still running routes well. But today was a rough day. He is dealing with that like bicep injury situation. He was still wearing the shoulder brace today. I don't know if it's just like really impacting him, but I don't think I've ever seen Ladd McConkey drop a pass like that today. And, those are very much situations where I expect Ladd to show up, even in the previous 3 weeks where he's not getting a ton of volume. He's still the one running the routes that try and get the offense going. Did he have a second drop today? I thought it was just the one.
There was definitely the one obvious drop slightly behind him. And then there was the one, I think it will probably go down as a contested catch, but it was down the right sideline. I think maybe could have had it.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if they're call it what you want. He didn't come up with the football.
Yeah, I think that's fair. He did also have the block in the back penalty, which was not great. He's usually a really quality blocker, but I don't know. Maybe it was just maybe it was just a bad day. I'm hoping that's the case, but it's definitely worth bringing up. One catch is kind of crazy.
Yeah, on the targets too. You'd think he would make a couple of those work, but nope, 1 on the 6.
Yeah, I know that fantasy people are not excited about him and going to continue to push narratives, but
sure.
The first 3 games on tape, he's still doing good things. He's still getting open. Today might be a rough watch.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, Tyler, any other final takeaways from this one before we get to some super chats?
Let's get to the super chats, and if I think of something to blame Zion Johnson for, I will.
I love it. I love it. Crescendo kicking us off says it was a fun season. Offensive line isn't good enough. Defense still lacking talent. Better luck next year, Chargers. Man, there's a lot of doomsday conversations in here, considering we were all talking Super Bowl stuff and home playoff game at the end of last week.
Yeah, they are still 3-1. Again, I would have lost $2 billion if you told me to bet on who the Chargers would lose to in that 4-game stretch.
Right.
Granted, there have been injuries along the way, so this is the weakest they've been too. But yeah, I think the line is not good enough. Yeah, it's not good enough. The defense lacking talent. You can definitely feel the stress of not having at least Khalil Mack out there, if not just another pass rusher. You just feel like, oh, something's going to happen because they just don't have that closer. And it's crazy because Tuli had the game of his life today. He may never have a better game in his life, but there wasn't another thing. And I'm curious if Minter's able to maybe like find better execution, more sound middle of the field work when they don't have to just keep sending different players or trying stuff that isn't working. I don't know, because technically they're not blitzing, but they'll send a DB or a linebacker and drop somebody. So the defense definitely needs some blue chip players, especially in the pass rush department.
Yeah. So PFF has Bud Dupree with 2 pressures today. I can remember one of them where him and Deshaun Hand like had the stunt and were able to get Jackson Dart, kind of at the goal line. I think that was after the Dexter Lawrence interception. And Dart threw the ball away. And I don't remember a second one from Bud Dupree, honestly. Caleb Murphy had the 1 sack. Like once a game, Caleb Murphy does something and it looks good. But the rest of the game it's just not good enough, man. Like they just do not have enough, alternate pass rushers alongside Tuli right now. So their second best pass rusher right now, honestly, might be Tier Tart. Like it's at that point. So it's tough for them to, the Giants get into obvious passing situations and they just rush the 4. Maybe they do 1 stunt on the one side. They have guys that can win. The Chargers have 1 guy who can win right now in like a true one-on-one situation. So it's tough right now. We talked about training for an offensive lineman. Teams generally don't do that, but pass rushers are absolutely somebody. They are a position that teams are willing to trade. There's, just from the sheer amount of players that teams have, there are several teams out there who have quality pass rushers as healthy scratches each week. Whereas if you have a quality offensive lineman, they're on the team, they're active. There's just not that kind of volume. So I do think we could see a pass rusher trade, especially if, Khalil Mack kind of gets back and is kind of a slow, return to form kind of situation. So
yeah,
I do think that is much more plausible than a trade for an offensive lineman.
Yeah, highly doubt offensive linemen at this stage in the season get traded for. It's very rare, but as you said, pass rushers 100%. PFF is listing that the Chargers game grades are actually finalized. So just looking at the numbers, I don't know because that seems very rare. But as it currently stands, 7 pressures for Tuli, 4 sacks, like great game. Deshaun Hand 2, Bud Dupree 1, Murphy 1, Aboigbe 1, Henley, Derwin, Troy Dye 1. So from pure defensive linemen that are not Tuli, they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pressures from non-Tuli defensive linemen. Bud Dupree had a pass rush win rate of 0.
Sick.
Even Sykes can tell you that 0 is bad. I'm sorry, I'm just picking on this random guy. I don't really mean this. 0 is not good. So let me go down the list again. 7 for Tuli, 4 sacks. Hand, Dupree 2, Murphy, Aboigbe, Henley, Derwin, Dye 1. So a total of 16, a total of 9 from people that aren't Tuli. The Giants got 27 pressures, 9 from Abdul Carter, 6 from Burns, 5 from Thibodeau, 2 from Muasau, 2 from Lawrence, 1 from Alexander, Davidson, and Robertson Harris. And the big culprits for pass blocking, I don't think that's changed. Oh, that's the Giants. Man, that is depressing that they only gave up 7 pressures according to PFF. But Deculus 6, Jamari 5, Bozeman 4, Pipkins 3, Haskins, Hampton, and Zion 1. Fisk, Conklin, Gadsden, and Matlock and Alt all also allowed 0 in under 10 snaps.
Yeah, man. That's tough. That's tough. A lot of the Chargers pressures were on like RPO situations, so you're designing, an unblocked situation. But yeah, tough. Mr. Starr, I appreciate the big super chat here. Says that was bad. Almost everything they could do wrong, they did wrong. Vintage Chargers in the worst possible way. I think that's supposed to say, get well, Joe, go off, Omarion.
Yep, Hampton was great. I hope Joe Alt gets better and quickly. And yeah, everything that could go wrong, they did wrong. Dexter Lawrence almost getting a thick six. Just the whole thing was just a lot of things went wrong. The good news is they lost by 3. So like absolutely everything possible could have gone wrong. It feels like they still almost won, but they lost.
Yeah. Anthony wants to know, what was the week the Bills fired Roman?
I believe 2 weeks.
It was that early?
It was like 2 or 4 weeks.
Oh, yeah. It was September 16th. Wow.
So he's made it longer than that. They're not firing Greg Roman.
No.
I will say that I think after Alt went down and there was one more drive in there where it kind of chaotic, they did settle. And I think that almost the rest of the way, the game plan was adjusted and they kind of worked. Again, we saw 3 screens. They had 0 for the first 3 weeks. Oh, they had 1 to Conklin that he dropped. They had 3 in this game. That's an adjustment. So there's that. There was a little bit more quick game. Again, McConkey disappearing, I think, throws a wrench in all of this. If he just couldn't get separation, that's just a whole monkey wrench in all of this. I'm sure there were plenty of opportunities or ideas to get him the football. So we'll see. But I thought there was an in-game adjustment. And then I thought they were really leaning on Hampton, and here we go. And then it was just like, Abdul Carter by himself against Deculus, whatever. And then it's like, like you almost had it. I almost could sit here and praise the game plan after the adjustments with Alt being out, but then it just at the end.
Yeah, the second quarter and the third quarters were good. I thought they were doing smart things. They were getting the run game going, more quick game, like you mentioned. And then once they got into situations where they had to just do straight drop back stuff, it was really, really bad. So, firing Greg Roman is, again, very premature. Like I think whatever gripes we had with him last season, up until today, he had been very good. Like the game plans against all 3 teams, I thought were very good. They were doing really good, solid things from a pass protection standpoint, from a pass production standpoint. The run game was starting to figure itself out. Greg Roman has been good up until today. And then today I would say is kind of like a 50-50 bag. So they're not firing him. The Chargers would have had to have like the worst offense in the league with Herbert for them to fire Greg Roman. And that's just like not in the cards because Justin Herbert is too good. Mm-hmm. So I understand the frustration today. They're not firing Greg Roman at any point this season, I would say.
No, we can't say MVP, and then like I fire their guy, their coordinator. I think that I do think though we are going to see if the injuries keep mounting. Granted, everyone deals with this. You can't be your best without all your best players, but it's a more of a drop off as you start to lose players for Greg Roman. So if Alt's not out there.
Yeah, I don't care who you are as an offensive coordinator. If you do not have your 3 best offensive linemen on the field, it's extremely difficult to call plays properly. So
totally.
Austin Smith says that he felt nervous about this all week. Alt is even more crucial than we thought. Praying the injury isn't short term, or praying the injury is short term. Excuse me. They did not look well coached today. I agree with all of that. Thankfully, the initial reporting is that it's a high ankle sprain. Mm-hmm. He'll get an MRI tomorrow, is what Ian Rappaport said. But if it is just a high ankle sprain, he should be back in the next 3 to 4 or 5 weeks ish, and hopefully looking just like himself. Obviously, they lost the game today. What also sucks about this is that if Joe Alt does miss 4 games, it makes him ineligible to be like an all-pro player. Which That's he true. Absolutely was tracking for. So he can still make the Pro Bowl and things like that. But if you miss 4 games, the AP voters kind of just like generally like you're not that guy.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Jamook says, Alt injury aside, this was obvious trap game material. Regardless, I was honestly thrown off by your insistence of the opposite. Again, I just don't think this counts as a trap game. The Chargers just played like shit today.
I thought my entire life a trap game was because you're overlooking the bad team for the good team. So this isn't a trap game, but they should have beat the shit out of the Giants today. So
Yeah,
like,
it's
I'm happy to say we were wrong about the score. Like, I overestimated or underestimated, excuse me, the Giants. I oversold what the Chargers could do. All that. 100% full blame on me overthinking this or underthinking this. They lost. I just didn't think it was a trap game. That's all. Because I think that I always thought a trap game was the next opponent had to be like the Chiefs. So like you go Giants, Chiefs are the division, Giants are the trap game, not the Commanders who just got beat by the Falcons.
Yeah, that's part of it. Again, the good scrappy team just don't have a ton of talent as part enough. I don't know, man. I still don't think the Giants are a good team. Like they play the Saints next week. They'll probably beat the Saints. That might be their only 2 wins of the season. Like they're not a good team. And the Chargers have some other games on the schedule that to me count more as a trap game because you mentioned like they have a game following that, which is against a really good team. But I think this focusing on us not calling it a trap game is just like, what's the point?
It's also our fault they lost.
Yeah, the Chargers looked like shit. How dare we say that they this was not a trap game? I don't get it.
It's all good. It's all good. No, we live with the good and the bad of being live and here and giving our thoughts live and in person.
Yeah. I feel like we generally will say, "Hey, man, we were wrong about this."
Not me. I'm never wrong.
Just early, yeah. I don't feel wrong about not calling this a trap game. I don't think the Giants are a good team. Nothing that happened today makes me feel opposite. The Chargers played like shit today. That's why they lost.
Yeah.
I don't know if Edgar Pasos had a question here. Appreciate the super chat nonetheless. Ricardo says bad play calling, not running enough, bad defense. I think we agree with all 3 of those things. The Schlechter.
Sure.
I don't know what that is. But they say a not prepared first start rookie named Justin almost beat the Chiefs off a Super Bowl win back in the day. Things happen, especially when your O-line disappears. Real sad, but go Bolts.
Yeah, 3-1. You know what? You get one of these every 4 games. Have a pretty decent record by the end of the year. They're still atop the division. So
yeah,
all's good. They just gotta stop having these injuries. I said it after the 3-0 game. The Chargers are in a great spot, but everyone's got Super Bowl aspirations. And I think you and I changed our win total by like 1 because they're looking great, but the Chargers every year will have this other thing called injuries that just derail them and losses like this. Thankfully, maybe this is the last time they lose a game like this. It won't be, but at least they get this one past them.
If they lose another game when they have 14 penalties, I would be very surprised. That the part of the execution stuff I think will go away, but there are certain parts of this team where they definitely need some correcting in the offseason, and I know people are not going to want to hear that, but they still are missing a couple blue chip players to like truly be a Super Bowl contender. I'm not changing my prediction after last week. Eventually Khalil will be back, eventually Mekhi Becton will be back, eventually Joe Alt should be back. Once those guys are back, I think you'll feel good about the future and the short term. But today was bad. This was easily to me the most frustrating Jim Harbaugh game because I do not feel like they were prepared to play today.
Yeah, I don't know that Cardinals one where I couldn't name a single Cardinals defender. It kind of hurt.
But the Cardinals have a good coaching staff. They have Kyler Murray. Like they have Buda Baker, like they have good players on that team, and they were doing creative stuff in the run game to like threaten the Chargers, and they were just like throwing shit at the wall, and it worked. Yeah. And today, I just feel like they were just missing tackles, penalties, execution errors. Yeah. I don't know.
This is Edgar's question, by the way.
Okay. Edgar's question: should I cope by remembering that the Eagles lost against the Falcons last year by gaslighting myself into believing that we lost in week 1 against KC and then won the next 3 straight? Teams lose games that they should win all the time, and that's a fair thing to say. And the Falcons lost to by the Eagles definitely kind of like woke them up a little bit. Mm-hmm. I think the Cardinals lost to the Chargers last year kind of woke them up a little bit. Hopefully that's the case this year. They're going to lose more games. To me, the most disappointing thing is the way that this happened. Like in a vacuum, if you had told me, hey, they're going to lose by 3, Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterby are going to run for 160 yards. Herbert's going to throw 2 turnovers. Okay, like that's fine. I would be annoyed, but like the way that they lost today, just to me, is something that should never happen with this team and this coaching staff.
Yeah, whichever option is more positive for you, Edgar, go for it. Either way, they're 3-1, and I'll be there next Sunday. So sorry in advance.
Austin Smith says, optimism. We have one Hampton. The kid can play. He can play. It was a great performance today for sure.
Yeah, I think Atticus just asked a question. It's not non-super chat, but 3 weeks so far, offense has been starting slow. Any ideas? Yeah, probably Hampton. Sorry, I lost the super chat there, but
you're good.
I have no reason to not lean on Hampton next week. I don't know how the Commanders' overall run defense is, but like this kid looks pretty good. So 20 touches next week should be a gimme.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate Bolt Guy for sending a comment here. Again, if you also have a question you do not get to ask, feel free and send it in here. The Schlechter again says, another positive is that Herbert isn't injured. Yeah, he took a way too many hits today, and there was one where he got up slowly after Kayvon Thibodeau went low, which I'm not going to be complaining about the referees guy, but the amount of stuff that teams get away with against Justin Herbert has never made sense to me. Like even last week on Justin Herbert's game time touchdown, Nick Bonito hits him in the face and there's no flag and it didn't matter. But today, Thibodeau goes low. They throw the flag. They say he's blocked into him. When has that ever mattered for an elite quarterback? Like Joey Bosa got blocked into Mahomes several times and would always get the penalty flag called. There was another time where Brian Burns hit Justin Herbert above the neck, no penalty. I don't understand. Like, what do we have to do to get Justin Herbert some roughing the passer calls? It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. I don't know what the rate is of calls for him versus others, but it seems to be very low. He's a very tough guy, non-complainer kind of guy, non-whiner.
Yeah.
So yeah, some of the bang stuff, fine. I think there's a couple of penalties that could have been called. Again, we're not going to blame the refs, but like the hands to the face feels like when his face is getting scrunched in like this, it just feels like that's the one. It's not like low, it's not quick. It just feels like you can clearly see that one. Oh well.
Yeah, I don't know. Landon Sumner, Steven, how much I got to pay for you to go on an offensive line rant? I know you're nice, but if you tear them apart, it'll be therapeutic AF onto Washington. Obviously, we talked about it. Hopefully that kind of sufficed, but yeah, I feel like we ranted a lot about the offensive line in the offseason, so I don't know if I want to continue to do that.
The other thing is, too, like, what am I supposed to say? What are we supposed to say when it's Austin Deculus and Jamari Sawyer and Trey Pipkins and he's hurt? Bradley Bozeman with a back injury. It's a group that I would not expect to do well in this game. It would be more, honestly, I think like Steven would more rant on the personnel decisions more so than just the offensive line. Yes, they played poorly. I don't know what I expected either.
Yeah, when you're down to your third string left tackle, a guy who had a month ago, it's not necessarily his fault that he gives up 6 pressures when you should be protecting yourself against that same situation from happening. So, yeah, that's what it is. Kyle, at least QJ got, what is that word?
Isolated in that preseason game. Oh, is that a concussion related thing? I don't. He's referring to the getting knocked out for the concussion, but I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means either, Kyle. You gotta explain that one. But this is the Chargers. I know. Got worried for a second there.
Yes, this is the Chargers. I know. I got worried for a second there. Could have been
much worse for sure.
Could have been worse. I guess. I think is what we're. That's what I'm settling on for an answer here.
I got nothing for you, Kyle.
For me. Oh, anime reference. Oh.
I'm sorry.
Teleport into another world. Steven is definitely not the person to pick up on that. And if I don't pick up on it, then we're doomed.
Yeah, we had a couple of students like ask me if they could start an anime club, and they were like, "Do you know anime?" And I was like, "Nope." Like I watched Dragon Ball Z when I was a kid, but that was like about it.
Yeah, Steven didn't even play Pokemon. That's not even really an anime.
No. I feel like I'm generally well versed in like the pop culture stuff, but anime I've just never been able to like get into.
I can sing the lyrics to Golden.
I did watch that movie. I know that one.
Okay.
I watched the first season of the anime Star Wars show. That was cool, but hard to follow.
Cool.
B says, why does Greg Roman continue to leave Scott Malik on the field? It's a 10 on 11 every time. Also, Ryan Ficken and ST had a horrible game.
Yeah, I got to watch more of the Matlock stuff. I don't recall it being as bad as last week. I could do without the Matlock to the flat and Tucker Fisk dump off calls in the back-to-back.
Dude, they ran mesh to Tucker Fisk. I was like, what are we doing?
Conklin ran the slowest screen I've ever seen in my life. I didn't think that was possible after Will Dissly. I was looking at him, and he looked like he was, not literally, but like 350 pounds. Dexter Lawrence ran it back faster than he did. I don't know what is happening. Ryan Ficken, horrible special teams game. Yeah, it was. Dicker was great. He has been. I get that they're down Josh Harris, but it's not been good. It hasn't been good.
Yeah. J.K. Scott is good for like one really good punt and one really bad punt a game at this point, and it's pretty frustrating. But he's under contract next year, I think.
Yes, I believe so.
Wasn't his new deal a 2-year deal?
I think they said like multi-year deal for him and Bozeman. So I think so. I thought he started well. There was 2 punts down inside like the 1 or 2. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, it's actually a pretty good J.K. Scott game. And then it was like, here's a 21-yard punt. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, the worst possible moment too. If you have I think it was officially a 38-yard punt, but if you have that punt in the first quarter, I don't think anybody cares. You do that in the fourth quarter, it's a problem. It's a problem.
Yeah, you punted to your own 45. That's brutal.
Yeah. The Scott Matlock stuff was, I feel like, generally fine today. He did have like a couple good reps as a pass protector today, so deserves credit there, but we'll see what the tape says too.
Mm-hmm.
Nicole Zito says special teams atrocious outside Dicker. We agree. It has been very poor so far.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of good like Marlo Wax tackles, so that's cool, but
yeah,
it's been a frustrating special teams performance so far this season.
Mm-hmm.
Ricardo says Roman play calling is terrible, no adjustment.
I overall disagree for about, like Steven said, the second and third quarter. I felt like there was some settling there. They had a couple of touchdowns, and then it was just like to close it out. So it more leaves a bad taste in our mouths than I think the whole performance was, especially after losing Malt.
Yeah, I agree there. Miss Andrea Schoon, bummer loss, but so much to be proud of. We always appreciate Tyler's mom jumping in here with the super chat. How was her Prize Picks ticket today?
I did not get a message about them, so I do not know. I think my mom generally trends more positive, and I don't think she saw it. I'm sure Lad McConkey was on there, and I don't think any of us thought 6 yards was going to happen. So,
no. Yeah, I mean, Andrew Phillips played really well today, man. He had given up the most yards in the league of any slot defender heading into today, and then he had a few really good plays, unfortunately, for the Chargers. So maybe this was just kind of an Andrew Phillips legacy game. I don't know.
Yeah, no, he played a great game. Would have never guessed he was the worst corner in the league through 3 weeks.
Yeah. KZ, run defense, third down defense. What happened today? Bad performance. Lad also poor day. Again, a lot of similar ideas here. I think we agree.
Mm-hmm.
Sykes actually sent in a super chat. Shout out to Sykes there. I assume this was before we called him out for the science stuff. He says, sucks to say, but we aren't winning anything this year. Can't win with this OL. Just hope we get a high draft pick for next year now. The Chargers are 3-1, man. Like,
yeah,
they can still win a playoff game once Joe Alt and Mekhi Becton are back.
Sure.
This particular 5 that finished today, yeah, the Chargers will not win anything with that group, but it's not going to be that group every week, hopefully.
Yeah, the Chargers have a good bit of time where they have it says about the Giants, a somewhat easier stretch of games, non-division games that should be like, okay, got to get our guys back, hopefully just avoid injuries, then you can kind of be back to that team, let's say, when they face the Vikings, and then going forward against the Eagles and those teams and whatnot, they have more of a chance. But yeah, my only pessimism that I could understand and get behind is that we've seen Chargers teams just have it all and then just death by 1,000 cuts the entire rest of the way. You get to the playoff game that maybe we're even hosting, and the Chiefs are completely healthy and ready to go going to SoFi, and you have like this offensive line here.
Yeah, I agree there. So I think the Chargers, once they get Joe Alt back, they'll be fine. But They gotta, they play the Commanders next week. That's again a good defensive line. Edge rusher is not like their strength. It's more of the interior stuff. So Zion and Becton got to be on their P's and Q's next week. The Dolphins have good edge rushers for sure, although that defense is kind of generally underwhelmed. The Colts, they have very talented edge rushers, but they have been underperforming so far. Obviously DeForest Buckner is kind of the straw that stirs the drink there. And then the Vikings, that's terrified me from the jump in terms of the schematic matchup. If Alt misses that game, then I'm even more concerned. So yeah, I still think they should be able to win at least 2 of their next 4 games if Alt is out. But yeah, man, the Colts are clicking on offense. I don't know how they're doing right now, but it's not murderer's row by any means the next 4 games, but I think the Chargers should be able to, at worst case, be like 2-2 through those next 4 games.
Yeah, Colts are losing by 3 to the Rams. The Rams were also up 19 last week, so we'll see.
Yeah. Dre says, why does it feel like there are never any easy buttons for Herbert? Dart had so many easy completions and runs, it just feels strange. The entire game plan from the Giants offense was spam easy buttons, which we all knew was going to be the case.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of easy buttons in the Greg Roman offense. They, their form of an easy button is play action. Let's push the ball down the field. Let's boot Herbert out. And I think that was going to be a big part of it. But, the first 2 or 3 times Herbert bootlegged out, the Giants edge rushers were just all over it. They were not falling for those bootlegs at all. And so I think the Chargers just kind of pivoted to some quick game and screens and things like that. And, there's not a lot of easy buttons, though, in the Greg Roman offense. That is true.
Yeah. I would like a little more intentional Herbert runs. Again, I don't know what the right number is. Like, 'cause he runs one, he gets hurt, then it's like, well, you're an idiot for running him. But at the same time, I think he can make it work. The scrambling has been hit or miss, but I think more of an intentional run can help him a bit.
Yeah, they did the QB power thing at the goal line for the 2-point version. That was a good call. I like that. I'm not ever going to be the guy to be like, hey, let's design 7 runs for Herbert this game, but just give me like one QB zone read where he runs. Sure. I think that really helps the run game overall, and I think just gets him going a little bit more. So
yeah,
just a little more intentional, I think, would be good there.
Mm-hmm.
Sergio says people in the chat need to chill, cut the crap with the same old Chargers not winning anything this year, etc. Game was tough, but future is bright. I appreciate the positivity there from Sergio. Again, just kind of like the way that this went down is really disheartening for me. But overall, 3-1 through 4 weeks is about as good as you can ask for in the NFL for a non-Eagles or that kind of level of team.
Yeah, unless you pick them to go undefeated. Let's say even the optimistic fans said 13-4. Well, that is 4 losses. So they're going to lose some games. This was one of them. Hopefully it's not a trend. They lose next week and the following week, sure. And they're losing players, different discussion, but not right now.
Yeah, not right now. Just looking at Alex's tweets, there was no update on Joe Alt, but there was a video of him limping off in the walking boot. So that's not going to be a fun few weeks for him, just from a recovery standpoint. Taylor says that this game was Herbert's fault.
I definitely don't think he was like great. So I understand there being some frustration, but the throw that Dexter Lawrence batted down, which might have also been picked because it looked like there was a defender in the area, but like there was 2 linemen on Dexter Lawrence. That happens. And then technically his tackle saved a touchdown and they only allowed 3. And then the other interception was just they threw to the spot where McConkey should have been and he was not there. So, but was it his fault? No. Was he great? No. But I'm happy to go through 5, 6, 7, 8 other players before I get to Herbert.
Yeah. It's really difficult to play quarterback when you're hit as often as he was today. To me, this is on the coaching staff first and foremost, as we talked about. Montserrat sent in a super sticker. Again, if you have a question that was supposed to be attached here, feel free and ask it. We'll try and get to there. Frank Blakely, if Disley is healthy, is it time for 12 personnel and go run heavy? We definitely feel like they should be more run heavy, but I don't know if you want to go like full 2024 Chargers through their first 4 games, but they definitely need to get the run game going more, especially after Omarion has showed out so well the last 2 games.
Yeah, he's clearly working for them. I don't expect the Commanders to go, oh, are they going to run it? Like, I'm pretty sure they're going to lean into that next week. But yeah, I think Disley being back helps you. The 3 tight ends they have, if you want to go full Seattle for a couple of weeks, 3 tight ends, run it, pass it through those tight ends, whatever works.
Yeah, I was just looking up stuff for the next question here from Quinn Cook. Has Roman's poor game planning been overshadowed by a great defensive play and MVP play from Herbert? We don't score many points and we struggle in the red zone. Again, I think we generally think Greg Roman is coordinated well. What do you make of the red zone comment, though? Because I do think that part is worth bringing up.
If you're talking about the Chargers offense, yeah, they definitely do. I'm trying to think of how many opportunities they've had. So today was,
I think there was just the one red zone play.
Yeah, I'm not drawing out enough examples to know for sure, because like the Quentin Johnston throw was far out. The Hampton one was far out. I don't recall them really getting to the red zone too much. When they did, I mean, the 2-point conversion play, that was good. I don't know enough yet there. Last week against the Broncos, they had Hampton for the touchdown. I think Herbert's big time throw was in the red zone or very close to it. So I don't know where they rank.
They had one red zone opportunity today. That was their field goal drive where they got to the 20-yard line after they completed a pass to Keenan Allen. And then they had the block in the back penalty from Ladd. Yeah. They had the holding penalty. Who was the holding penalty? Or not the holding penalty, excuse me. Intentional grounding from Herbert. And then they kicked a field goal after that. So that was their only red zone opportunity today. The touchdown drive, like you mentioned, was Omarion's big run, and then started the third quarter with a punt, interception, the touchdown, which was the Quentin Johnston big touchdown, and then punt, end of game. So just the one red zone opportunity today, but they got a field goal out of. So I know heading into today, in terms of red zone touchdown percentage, they were like 18th, I think. So they're not improving from last year, which I think is, a bit of a concern, but it's only been 4 games. I think they will ultimately end up better than they did last year, but I think part of that is just because they have better players,
Yeah.
Sergio says Zion is serviceable. If he would agree to a team-friendly contract like $15 million a year, we should definitely keep him. QJ is getting more expensive, though.
Yeah, so technically next year is the 5th-year option decision on Quentin, right?
Yeah, in the offseason, yep.
They're probably exercising it, I would think, at the rate. If he clears 1,200 yards this year, you're doing that regardless of how anybody feels, because it's working. He's working in your system. He's working with your coordinators, working with your coach, your culture. He's developing. Zion's contract, on the one hand, with the way the guard market worked, you can get a nice comp pick for him. They don't have a lot of picks next year. At the same time, I think Zion does come back because they have more money than they do draft capital early on. And you're talking interior defensive line, edge rusher, corner. If they cut Bozeman, then definitely center, possibly backup swing tackle, tight end. I think if Zion finishes the season as above average to good, which he's at least been so far this year overall for 4 games, then I think you just put the money there. If ultra left tackle, for sure. Like, that duo has been great together too. Yeah. That duo has been really, really nice together, whether it's Slater at all or Slater and Zion, whatever. So I think you just put the money into a contract for Zion. Not a 4 or 5 year deal by any means, but yeah, I think he comes back.
Yeah, $15 million a year would put him, relatively outside of like the top 10 at right guard, or excuse me, left guard. But it would be a pretty sizable contract. So that would officially put him at left guard 8 behind Joel Bitonio, ahead of guys like Damian Lewis, Ben Powers, John Runyon, Ezra Cleveland, who are kind of in like the 10 to 12 range. So 15 seems fair if he continues to play at this level.
Correct.
For what it's worth, for the 5th-year option projections, Over the Cap did have this already. So if Quentin Johnston does not make the Pro Bowl this season, which he might, his 5th-year option price tag would be $17.6 million. If he does make the Pro Bowl, it would jump up to $24 million. So
wow.
I would not be surprised, again, if this holds and he's playing for 1,200, 1,300 yards, then he deserves the contract extension that he's probably going to get. I think the Chargers would potentially decline the option and just prefer to do an extension right away. But again, we're jumping ahead by a lot here, but these two players are deserving of credit for taking positive steps forward this season for sure.
Yeah. So right now, Zion Johnson through 4 games, but some other games to go this afternoon, of course. He's 8th in the NFL in offensive guard pass blocking efficiency, which is not the only thing, but like that's a very quantifiable, easy thing for us to look at. Like he's 8th, and you said $15 million a year for left guards would put him 8th, let alone all interior offensive linemen. So yeah, if he ends up in like the top 15, you bring him back. I don't need to see them, have to address 3 other offensive line positions with draft picks and go, sorry, Minter, got to do it again. Good luck with players that we found on the discount pile.
Yeah, people will hear $15 million for Zion and freak out, I'm sure, but if
ring.
he plays at this level the rest of the year, it really isn't that much. And I feel like that actually would be a good compromise of like, hey man, your first 3 years were not great. But last year you were really good. So, we'll kind of throw you a decent bag, but not anything crazy. I feel like that's, I feel like that's a fair compromise from Sergio.
Yeah.
Caleb says, after this performance, I fully expect Ortiz to heavily attack OL and free agency and the draft next season. Free agency, maybe. Again, if Zion is brought back, their starting 5 is kind of set. But they definitely need a new swing tackle next season. Trey getting older and not really playing super well. To me is like that's you in a position you can go attack in free agency. Maybe you get an upgrade at swing guard, but yeah, man, they got to draft like at least 2 interior blockers next draft, in my opinion.
Yeah, and the longer they've waited, the worse this seems to get because now the defense is starting to have like some magnified issues, and they always have. Like they need more talent. Jesse Minter, it'd be great if they had better players. No offense to the players that are there, but some true closers, some true pass rush juice. And so now it's like the longer they've waited, the more I don't know. I'd love for them to attack offensive line in free agency, truly, and in the draft. They have so much they have to figure out too next year.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with Jake Hefner from Chargers Unleashed on Twitter, and my thinking right now is that edge is their number 1 need in the draft, and I think defensive tackle could be a close second, interior offensive line a close second. And somebody asked me like, well, they're getting a ton of good value in the 3rd, 4th rounds from these defensive players. Wouldn't that be better to wait? And it's like, well, Jesse Minter's not going to be here forever. He might not even be here next year. And if he is here next year, wouldn't it be great to see what he could do with like a 1st round edge rusher or a 1st round defensive tackle, a premium draft pick, as opposed to, hey man, here's another 3rd round edge rusher. Here's a 4th round corner again.
Yeah.
Eventually just like team building has to kind of balance out towards the defense. They've invested a lot on offense. And so I think eventually it'll swing back the other way. So
yeah,
but they can find really good value traditionally along the interior offensive line in the 3rd, 4th corners or 3rd, 4th rounds, excuse me. And that's kind of what I would expect at this point.
Yeah, if they go, I'm making this up. Thomas Martinez knows where all the players are kind of at right now. But if they go edge, interior offensive line, D tackle or something, I think that'd be just fine by me.
Yeah. Alex Bridgeforth says too early to say season over. # normal Charger fan. I think we agree that yes, but we understand why people are frustrated today.
Yes.
Thomas Martinez on Q says start mocking Auburn center Connor Liu in the 1st round. That is the consensus center 1 right now. I know that a lot of Chargers fans like the one from Florida. But the NFL loves Connor Lew, so we'll see what happens there. But I think that is very much in play. If they cut Bradley Bozeman, that definitely is in play, but we'll see what happens there.
Yep.
Rodney Johnson, thoughts on Omarion only getting 12 touches. So it was officially 17, but yes, we agree that Omarion Hampton should be getting more than that. To me, it's like 18 carries a week at minimum for him going forward.
Yep.
Josh Morrison, y'all are great. Really appreciate you both helping us talk this one out. Love Ortiz and Harbaugh, but this was rough. All three phases seem lost and confused. Super frustrating. Please, no more still punt returner, I think is what he means there.
Yeah. Love the group overall. I think they're going to be fine. You know, another good draft. I think another solid free agency group from them. But yeah, it was rough today. Yeah, no more Tarheeb still at minimum because he's a starter.
Yeah, I think we would have had a similar conversation about Ladd being back there. You know, he's I think probably a better punt returner, but I just don't want your best receiver, who still I think is valued, or your best cornerback there. Like I think that's a tough, extra few hits that you take on the body.
Yeah.
Sock poot? I don't know, man. As frustrating as it is in the moment, I really think we'll be okay as long as one of Becton Alt is healthy.
I think so too. I think we felt both today, not just the one.
Yeah, I agree. Mike G says, feels like Green Bay losing to the Browns. Bolt up. I don't know, man. Myles Garrett and Mason Graham and that group on defense were just like dominant against the Packers.
Mm-hmm. I kind of get it though. Inferior team, but they have a good defensive front, keeping it close. I kind of get it.
That's fair. Jenny Bailey says, I get that it was ugly on all fronts, but I don't get why people are writing out the season already. If a few drops were catches, a few penalties hadn't happened, it's an ugly win instead of a loss. It does feel like there were just a few key moments here that could have gone the Chargers' way. Does this result change? I think yes, but I understand where Jenny's coming from for sure.
Yeah, to only lose by 3 with some of the stupidity of the whole game, the weirdness, wackiness of it, you could call that a win. It's not, but I get the if word.
Yeah. Sykes actually sent in another one.
Nice.
Do we draft OL next year? How's the 2026 draft class? I think the consensus right now is that the center class is better than last year, where the league just like straight up hated it outside of Jared Wilson, who was the only one who got drafted, I think, in the first 3 rounds. I think the tackle class early returns are pretty good. A lot of people have asked me about the Utah ones. We'll see. I do kind of think Spencer Fano probably ends up inside just due to some size limitations. So maybe that's a possibility for the Chargers, but right now he's getting like top 10 hype. So we'll see. In terms of guards, that's definitely a question for Thomas Martinez. I do not feel like there's a ton of buzz about guards, but there's always some that emerge through the Senior Bowl, combine stuff. And, it's just not generally a position that gets a lot of like preseason hype.
No, not at all.
Steven Saba, sloppy performance. LOL, injuries are brutal. Overall, can't deny the upward trajectory of this regime. Trust the process, not going to win them all.
Yeah, well said there. I think he just joined as one of our members too. So if I didn't get the link out for the Discord link, I'll do it by tonight. Yeah, upward trajectory of the fan base, of the regime. Again, if you start 3-0 in the division, 3-0 for the first time since 2002. That is an upward trajectory. No matter how today went, they are 3-1. I would have been okay with 2-2. 2-2 maybe feels like same old Chargers. 3-1, upward trajectory.
Yeah, if they had like managed to beat the Chiefs and then lose to the Raiders, beat the Broncos, lose to the Giants, that I think is like more of an indication of like, oh, season's over. This team is the same as last year kind of thing.
Sure.
But going 3-0 in the division, I think does matter quite a lot. Bolt Guy 918 says terrible officiating, horrid coaching decisions. What the fuck? Officiating was not great, but that's kind of expected for Mr. Hockey Lee.
Yeah, it definitely felt one-sided. But though I think last week the Chargers were the beneficiaries of it being a bit more one-sided on some of the fortunate calls there. So it is what it is.
Yeah. Tyler J says OT targets for 2026 draft yet. Not I don't think we're there for tackle specifically.
Couldn't tell you.
And we have not started draft prep yet. So unrelated, but thoughts on turf versus grass. My thought is that every NFL game should be played on grass, and the only reason it's not is that the NFL owners are ridiculously cheap and want to cut corners as much as they can.
Yeah, lovely. And it's to the point where even like some places like MetLife, they're just like, you got to do something about this turf. And everyone ahead of the game, weeks before this game, got to do something about this. And it just continues to be an issue. But there goes Malik Neighbors.
Yeah, I forget which Yahoo Sports account tweeted it out, but they made a list of like all the recent, specifically like ACL tears that have happened at MetLife, and since 2020, it's like 8 players long, and it's just like the star players. It's not even just like backups or anything like that, but it was like Nick Bosa, Neighbors potentially. I forget the exact list, but it was significant, amount of players on that turf. So the NFL's supposedly trying to like get to a better version of the turf. MetLife is still the worst version of the turf. But when they host the World Cup games next summer, it'll be grass, and then it'll be back to the same shitty turf after the World Cup is over. So, every NFL game should be played on grass. Turf has its place. I understand that like there's a better version of the turf, like the Chargers turf. I feel like is generally okay. The Colts turf that they do the combine at is generally okay. But these other teams where they're still holding on to like the same shitty turf and all of these injuries continue to happen. Like that's what blows my mind. If you're the Jets and the Giants and you've seen all of these injuries happen because of your turf, wouldn't you want to invest in grass or at least like the better version of turf? So that every NFL stadium should be grass. That is my take about turf versus grass.
Yep.
Don Cheto, what's a splash trade y'all would want to see? For me, it's a pass rusher. I think like the highest end of pass rusher trade that they could pull off is probably like Kayvon Thibodeau or Jalen Phillips, depending how the rest of the season goes for those two teams. That's where I'm at. I know a lot of people after today will be like trade for a guard or whatever, but pass rusher to me is the one where they should definitely be looking. Yeah,
I agree there. As long as Alt is a 2-3-4 week injury, please go get a pass rusher.
Yeah,
they could trade for that person, have them next year with an extension, and we don't have to worry about a draft pick on that player. But we don't have to worry about it next year.
If you can give me Kayvon Thibodeau, Khalil Mack, and Tuli Tui Palotu next year, man, Chargers are in a great position for that. Mm-hmm. Joseph Jensen sent in a few smaller super stickers here. I don't know if there was a question attached to that.
I can look. I didn't see any,
but appreciate it for sending the 3 back to back.
He says, "Do you honestly think that the offensive line can make a push this season? Define push." They can
once Alt and Becton are back. I think the offensive line can kind of settle back into like a 14 to 18 range, and that is enough where the Chargers can still do some damage in the playoffs for me.
Yep.
But the backups are kind of a mess right now.
Mm-hmm.
Alex Bridgeworth says, how viable are the chances of reaching the Super Bowl still? What are your thoughts about that?
I never really thought they were going to. So I'm not going to say 0% because it's possible. But I don't think it's really changed. I think it's gone down maybe after today. I don't know. I would spend $5 on that. How about that? There's my confidence.
There you go. I think the AFC is so jumbled right now with a lot of teams who have question marks. So the Bills are undefeated. They crushed the Saints today. To me, I picked them to be that AFC champ this year. To me, they're in a tier of their own.
Yeah.
And then you have these teams like the Ravens and Chiefs are playing right now. I still think those two will be in the mix. I think the Chargers could be in the mix. That's about it in terms of like potential Super Bowl AFC teams. I don't buy the Broncos in that regard. The Bengals obviously not without Joe Burrow. I don't buy the Steelers at all. Aaron Rodgers has the lowest average at the target and potentially like in NFL history, and they just are winning against bad teams in weird ways. So I don't buy them. So the Chargers have a chance, and once the offensive line gets healthy, it'll be better. But I don't know, man. I have a really hard time picturing this team going to Buffalo and winning a playoff game.
Yeah. That's the part. That's the part. They can get as far as the AFC Championship, and I just think it kind of stops there.
Yeah, I forgot the Colts. The Colts are also potentially in that jumbled mess.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm not going to believe that Daniel Jones is just like the third best quarterback in the league based on EPA per play. I think eventually that will settle down. So they have some tough games coming up, including today against the Rams. They come to LA again for the Chargers in week 7. Mm-hmm. So we'll see about the Colts. But I think the Chargers, I still feel like their ceiling is hosting a playoff game, winning, maybe winning that playoff game, and then you'll see about the divisional round, which is still a successful season for me. Like if the Chargers host a playoff game, that's a major success for this team.
Yeah.
I still think they're a few horses short of being a legit Super Bowl contender.
Right.
Sykes said that we should not be shocked for a super chat. Been a fan for a while. We appreciate the thought and the comments always. And you were just the one that happened to send the Zion message at the wrong time, I think.
Totally.
You're not alone in the Zion feelings of the last 3 seasons, and we agree with you, to be completely clear, about the last 3 seasons. But through 4 games this year, he's been really good, and I think he deserves credit for that. That's all we were saying. Tyler just said it a lot more passionately and directed towards you specifically.
Yeah, it was not specifically you. It was everyone in general. Sometimes we just find the next comment that addresses it. Listen, I blame my mother because she is from the East Coast, so it's Mama Shootin's fault.
But hopefully you stick around, Sykes, because we love and support everybody in here. But I think it was just bad timing on your part.
Yeah, well, wasn't it you?
Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man with our last super chat of the day so far says Chargers need help at OL. Call up Senor Clemente or Sam Mustafers. Are you trying to get blocked today, man?
We hate you, actually. We actually hate you. We do not love and respect a word of what you just said. Everyone is dumber for having listened to you, and I award you no points. Joking.
Sam Mustapher was like fine. He just got put in a position to fail. Senor Clemente is a name that we do not bring up in this chat, please, ever again.
Yeah, no, that is of all the names I won't name my kids. It's any exes either of us have had, and Senio and Storm.
Yeah,
maybe Brandon.
Any exes, any bad students we've had, and then Senor Clemente.
My kid will not be Jared Gaither, Jared Tillery, nothing. None of that. No Toms, no Brandons, no Anthonys, no Mikes there.
Yeah, man. Funny. All right. 47 super chats. We appreciate the heck out of all you guys, man.
Seriously.
We know it's not fun to come jump on here sometimes about, games like that, but we appreciate all the support as always. Tyler, any final thoughts before we jump off for today?
Enjoy the shorts tomorrow morning. The film review is gonna suck, but you know what? One bad film review in 4 games is not too bad.
Yeah, not too bad. So we'll see what happens here. Normal schedule, obviously. Chargers playing on Sunday. We'll be back on Tuesday night for our film review. Thursday for the Commanders preview. Thankfully, the Chargers don't have a primetime game for a few weeks, so we can kind of get back into our usual routine there. A little bit of an announcement, I guess. Alex Katzen will be back this week for his Katzen's Corner episode. So Sweet. A lot of you guys asking about draft stuff. That is definitely the guy to ask on our channel. He's a very, very busy man. He went to Brazil this year, obviously covering the Washington Huskies for the first time. So if you are into draft stuff, please tune into Katzen's Corner. He will definitely cover everything about that, where the Chargers scouts are going, all of that stuff. So we are excited to have Katzen back with Katzen's Corner. We love working with him, and obviously he'll jump in from time to time on the channel. So big shout out to Katzen. Check out Alex Insdorf's videos as always. He'll do his usual recap. The Chiefs are up 27-10.
Yeah, they just scored 27-10.
Yeesh. Baltimore Ravens. What are we doing?
Not playing defense, apparently.
Not playing defense. That's not fun. I was really hoping the Ravens
lost by 3 to the Giants. At least he didn't lose 27-10 to the Chiefs. Granted, there's a lot of play to go, but 27 by the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Getting picked apart by Juju Smith-Schuster, man. Tyquan Thornton. Good Lord.
Yikes. All right, guys. As always, make sure to leave a like, a rating, review, comment. Lating works too, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
And this has been another episode of the Guilty as Charged podcast. We'll see you Tuesday. As always, bolt up.